Is Kansas City a dream destination or a horrible place to live in 2025? Let's explore the pros and cons of Kansas City that nobody else is talking about. The first con has to be the crime. The neighborhood that we currently live in right now in Kansas City ranks on some lists as the second most dangerous neighborhood in Kansas City. And if you stick around until the end, I'm going to share why we still live in this neighborhood despite how dangerous it can be. So there is some good news to this con, is that 2024 marks one of the first years that homicides were down in Kansas City, at least if you compare them to 2023 and 2022. There were 261 homicides in 2023, which is a lot, and there were only 211 in 2024, and this is counting the entire Kansas City Metro. That's a significant decrease in homicide, but at least Kansas City, Missouri, and we'll talk about the Kansas side in a little bit, still ranks amongst the top 10 most dangerous cities in all of America. When people call me about Kansas City and call me about moving here, the first thing, and sometimes the only thing they want to talk about, is the crime. It's very, very well publicized, especially after the Chiefs won their Super Bowl last year. There was a unfortunate shooting in Kansas City at the parade where a woman lost her life, and that kind of elevated the talk of violence in Kansas City to the forefront. And I've also seen some posts in Kansas City Facebook groups and Reddit threads where people are still suffering the repercussions of that traumatic day. So unfortunately, while people are trying to mitigate the crime here, authorities are trying to mitigate the crime here, a lot of people who still think about Kansas City still associate us with crime. The city has taken steps to hire more police officers. In fact, 2024 was the first year where we hired more police officers than we lost in the force to retirement. There are also some local neighborhood programs dedicated to combating crime. And like I told you before, I live in a more dangerous neighborhood in Kansas City, and they have come around and handed out pamphlets and brochures and information to keep your family safe. However, I will say, after reaching back out to them about how to get involved, a lot of times I don't get any correspondence back. I will say it feels a little bit unorganized to me. But it is pretty easy to avoid crime in the city if you're careful. Now, if you're moving to Kansas City and you want to discuss the crime, the schools, the neighborhoods, where to live, I would love for you to reach out to us and our team, because we have agents who are ready, willing, and able to help you relocate to Kansas City with you. If it's just you or your family, especially if you're buying a house here, we would love to chat with you, and we would love to help facilitate your move to Kansas City. We have tons of people reaching out from all over the country. Right now, we're currently serving clients who are relocating from New York, Florida, California, Tennessee, and Utah. And so we have a ton of experience relocating people to Kansas City. 816-4MOVE-KC is our number, or you can send me an email, shoot me a text. I will get back to you very promptly to help you with your move to Kansas City. Now, that leads us to the first pro of Kansas City, is affordable housing. If you're coming from the coastal areas, like I came from Southern California, I could not believe some of the home prices here in Kansas City. If you're shopping in the 100 to 200K range, which is unheard of in most metro markets, then cities like Kansas City, Kansas, especially areas like Strawberry Hill or Kansas City's historic Northeast, those places have beautiful historic homes for around $100,000 to $200,000. If your budget goes up slightly to the $200,000 to $300,000 range, you have options in the Kansas City Northland, which is the area that locals refer to north of the Missouri River. It combines great schools with suburban living, while only being 20 to 25 minutes away from everything that downtown has to offer. If you don't want suburban living and you want more urban living, then $200,000 to $300,000 will buy you a home right in the area where we live, Midtown and the surrounding areas here. Here you're close to Country Club Plaza, you're close to downtown Kansas City Power and Light, basically all the entertainment and nightlife. Once you get above $300,000, there you have multiple areas in the metro to choose from. You can pick your starter home in Overland Park for around $300,000, which is the largest and one of the most desirable areas in the Kansas City metro. Or you can settle down in the exact opposite end of the metro and move to Liberty, Missouri. Both of these areas have tons to offer, including shopping, great schools, the historic charm of Liberty Square. All of these things are available to you around that $300,000 price point. Now, if you move to the $400,000 to $500,000 range, then you're talking about new builds. And in this price range, you can build a home almost anywhere throughout the Kansas City metro, whether that's Lee Summit, Liberty, Overland Park. Of course, it's going to be a little bit smaller home than you would pay if you move to the higher price points, but I just finished a new build in Kearney for one of my clients, relocated from Illinois, from actually Chicago, to be nearer to family. They reached out right through this channel here. They built a home in Kearney, Missouri, and they love it up there. They paid in the high 400s, and they got everything they could possibly want, including a brand new home without worrying for maintenance for years to come. Now, if you get above $500,000 in Kansas City, you're getting into homes that would sell in the millions of dollars in other metro areas. For $500,000 to $700,000, I would head down to Olathe, where you can build a brand new 2,000 plus square foot home on a really, really nice lot, or settle down in Brookside, which is one of Kansas City's most trendiest communities in the entire metro, with beautiful 100-year-old historic homes that with charm that you won't find anywhere else. Now, if you creep at or above $1 million in Kansas City, you're going to find that the limits are far beyond what you can imagine if you're coming from one of the coasts. One of my good friends in Southern California, remember I was born and raised in Southern California, one of my good friends in SoCal just paid $1.5 million for a 1,400 square foot home in Los Angeles. Now, for that amount, you could either have 20 acres, about 20 to 30 minutes outside the metro, a beautiful home on 20 acres where you can farm, where you can have farm animals, where you can have land. You can move to a brand new modern build within walking distance of the Kansas City Country Club Plaza. You could have a 4,000 square foot home in Lenexa, Kansas that's built within the past 5 years, or you could have a top floor condo with breathtaking views of Kansas City's downtown. The housing market here is crazy affordable compared to other places. That leads us, however, to another con. Now, I've been mentioning both Kansas and Missouri, and you're kind of wondering why. If you're new to this channel and you're new to Kansas City in general, this Kansas City metro resides in two states. You have the Missouri side, which when people refer to Kansas City, most of the time they're talking about the Missouri side, including the sports teams, the Chiefs, the Royals, all of downtown, Kansas City Power and Light, all of that stuff, that iconic stuff, is located on the Missouri side. Now, I mentioned the Chiefs and the Royals, and that leads us to the tensions that are brewing between states, and you might want to avoid Kansas City if you want to avoid this drama. The Royals and the Chiefs right now play in stadiums that are located in Kansas City, Missouri, in an area near Independence, Missouri, which is a city on the east side of the Kansas City metro. Now, in 2020, the Royals changed ownership, and around that time, there started being talk about either renovating the stadium or relocating the stadium, possibly to a downtown location in Kansas City, because a lot of other MLB teams were relocating their stadiums to downtown with a lot of success, and so the Royals wanted to follow suit. In the years following that, politicians on both sides of the metro, and I'm talking about the Kansas side and the Missouri side, started hinting, especially the Kansans, started hinting that they would welcome jurisdiction and legislation that would move some of the sports teams across the state line over to the Kansas side. That led us to 2024, where on the ballot on April 1st, there was a measure where if Jackson County, and if you don't know, Jackson County is the county where most of Kansas City, Missouri resides, where citizens of Jackson County had the ability to vote for marginal tax increases to pay for stadium renovations or stadium relocation costs for the Royals and the Chiefs. And that ballot measure absolutely failed. It wasn't even close. Now, that means that the future of where our sports teams are going to play are entirely up in the air. Are they going to stay where they are in Missouri? Are they going to move somewhere else in Jackson County? Other counties in the Kansas City metro, like Clay County, have made a move to relocate the Royals and the Chiefs to the Northland. Then after the failed vote, politicians in Kansas have doubled down on their efforts to try to steal the Chiefs from the Missouri side over to the Kansas side. As you can see, all of this would cause tensions between Kansans and Missourians to kind of boil over. The Missourians believe that the Kansans are trying to poach their sports teams, and the Kansans believe that the Missourians are too cheap to pay to keep their sports teams. And so you can see that this can cause for a messy situation. Now, if you're watching from the future and the Chiefs and the Royals have already relocated, drop a comment below and tell me where they ended up, because right now it is unclear where the local sports teams are going to be playing their future seasons. And that leads us to another pro, which are city improvements. There has been a ton going on in the Kansas City Metro in the past years, and it's projected to continue to explode the upcoming years. To prepare, the city is upgrading the infrastructure like crazy. There are multiple roads being updated right now. More on that later, because that is slightly a con. Both the Kansas and the Missouri side of the metro, you're going to see major projects. On the Kansas side, the Kansas Department of Transportation is upgrading the K10, which is a major highway leading out of Johnson County, cities like Overland Park, Olathe. Those cities use the K10 to travel out to Lawrence. On the Missouri side, the KC Streetcar is a huge project that they're looking to finish in 2025. If you don't know what it is, the streetcar is a free-to-ride trolley that travels right now from River Market all the way down to Kansas City Power and Light. Now, they're trying to extend it all the way down to the Country Club Plaza and all the way down to UMKC, which is going to be huge for me because I live almost within walking distance to UMKC. So I love the fact that I can either walk or drive a very short distance from my house and then take free public transportation all the way up through Kansas City Power and Light, through Union Station, all the way up to River Market. Sounds like a really cool date night for me and my wife, or a really cool family day to explore just traveling up and down through the trolley. Absolutely for free. I love that because, we don't have to deal. We have 5 kids right now. Okay, we have 3 biological kids, and we have 2 foster kids staying with us for the time being. And so you can imagine going anywhere with all these kids. That is kind of a tough thing to do, right? So the streetcar, just being able to either walk or just travel a very short distance and then hop on free public transportation. And the kids, all my kids are 5 and under right now. And so they're going to be absolutely enthralled with going on a trolley or going on a train. They love trains, trolleys, anything that runs on a track or anything that is out of the norm of a normal car. They're going to just freak out. And so I can't wait until we get to ride the streetcar all the way down from where we live up to Science City, which is something that they love to do. And you know what? I have to mention this, and you may think this is silly, but in 2024, we finally got trash bins. Now, you might be watching this and saying, what, you didn't have trash bins before 2024? And that is absolutely right. When we lived in Gladstone, Missouri, which is the first place we landed in Kansas City when we relocated here from Los Angeles, when we lived in Gladstone, what we had to do was we had to contract a trash service. That means we had to get up. The city didn't take care of it. The city of Gladstone doesn't take care of trash. We had to call, and we called a place called Republic Services, and they got a trash service that we paid for every month. When we moved down to Kansas City, Missouri proper, there were no trash bins. Of course, the city ran the trash service, but what they did was we put out 2 garbage bags out front every Friday, which is our trash collection day. And of course, the trash pandas, the raccoons got into them, the mice got into them, the squirrels got into them. It was disgusting, and it made our street look disgusting. But in 2024, Kansas City, Missouri finally rolled out trash bins, and we get to use them now. And so the streets look so much more attractive, and it's so much easier for me to take out the trash on Friday mornings. Now, if you move to areas like Johnson County, Overland Park, Olathe, Lenexa, those places have definitely had trash bins for a lot longer than we have, and they don't necessarily have the same infrastructure problems that people on the Missouri side has. But what they do have is the next con, and that is construction everywhere. Like I talked about, all the improvements to the metro causes a crazy amount of construction happening both on the Kansas side and the Missouri side. Every time we take our kids to the Kansas City Library, we go to the Plaza branch, which is one of the coolest libraries that we've ever been to. We only live about 5 minutes away from the Plaza branch of the Kansas City Library, but every time we drive right now, we have to drive right past the construction for the Kansas City Streetcar. And again, it's going to be worth it in the end. But right now, you have to add at least 5 to 10 minutes if you're driving around downtown, midtown. Sometimes if you're going out around places in Overland Park, there's tons of construction going on, putting in new roads, new overpasses. All of those things are happening right now in Kansas City, and it's seemingly happening all at one time, which is awesome for our city moving forward in the future. But You're just going to have to allot that extra time for you to get to where you're going to need to go in Kansas City. And so that may affect your commute if you're moving here for work. That may affect your social plans if you're trying to go catch a show or a concert or something like that. All of that is happening right now, and that is definitely a con, all the construction going on in Kansas City. But attached to that con of construction is that there are going to be more things to do, which is our next pro in Kansas City in the upcoming years. One of the most exciting things that they announced is Mattel Park, which is going to be located in Wyandotte County near the Legends outlets. Now, Mattel Park, there's going to be a Hot Wheels themed racetrack. There's going to be a Thomas the Tank Engine themed area. Both things that my sons and children absolutely love right now. Once that's built, we will be one of the first families to take our kids out to Mattel Park and check out that brand new attraction. There is already a theme park in Kansas City called Worlds of Fun, and we have been told, look, your kids are a little bit too young for Worlds of Fun right now. They're not going to enjoy it until they're all above 5 years old. So we haven't even been there yet. We do go to Science City a lot down in Union Station. We do like to take them to other parks and attractions around the metro, but we really can't wait for Mattel Park because it sounds right in the wheelhouse for our kids and their age group. Another thing that's going to be happening is the first Buc-ee's in the Kansas City area is going to be coming to Kansas City in the upcoming years. That's going to bring hundreds of jobs in to Kansas City, and jobs that, from what I've heard, actually pay really well. I've been to Buc-ee's only on road trips for rest stops, so it'll be nice to have a Buc-ee's in the Kansas City metro. Also, the Berkeley Riverfront, if you don't know where that is right near River Market. The KC Stadium was completed last year, which is the first first soccer stadium for women's MLS soccer. That area, which is called the Berkeley Riverfront, also contains one of the coolest dog parks in the entire metro called Bar K, BAR-K. We bring our dog there all the time, not so much anymore since we have a lot of kids, but when we first moved here, we used to go to Bar K all the time. One of the coolest spots if you're a dog owner in Kansas City. It's under an overpass. It's right near the Missouri River. That whole area is set to be completely renovated by Port KC in the upcoming years. Also, two more projects I want to mention, the Rock Island Bridge and the South Loop project. The Rock Island Bridge is going to be located down in the West Bottoms, and that's going to go over the Kansas River. And the South Loop project is going to bring some green space downtown. We spend a lot of time downtown because we go to the YMCA that's located right on Wyandotte and 11th. And so our family loves traveling downtown. It's a very accessible downtown, and it's going to be made even more beautiful with the South Loop project. Now, with all of those things coming to Kansas City, one of the things that you might ask is, well, how's the weather out there? The weather is entirely unpredictable, which leads us to our next con. The summer temperatures can reach up to 100 degrees with humidity, and that is horrible. And the winter can reach below zero, which is absolutely frigid. But in the past few years, these extremes do linger only for about a week. You'll have a week in August where it reaches the hundreds and above. Stay home, okay? don't go to work if you can. And then for one frigid week in the winter, temperatures will definitely get around 0 to below 0. It's freezing cold. It's horrible during those times. In fact, we're kind of in one of those times right now. That's not even to mention the storms that can roll through here during those extreme seasons. I remember in June, we had a huge windstorm that took down a couple of trees in the neighborhood. And in the winter, we had about 12 inches of snow dumped on us over a weekend, which caused us to effectively be snowed into our own home because the snow plows and everything like that couldn't really keep up with all the snow that was dumped in our neighborhoods in Kansas City all at once. And that's not even talking about the temperature fluctuations which can come and go in Kansas City. The fluctuations are absolutely wild sometimes. What you can have is in the winter, you can have a negative 10 day one day, and then it can get all the way up to 40 or 50 degrees the next day, which is like a 50 degree temperature swing, which is just wild. And then in the summer, you can have a windstorm or a tornado warning just really quickly, immediately on you, just like that, or just unexpected rain. It kind of causes Kansas City to be known. It kind of causes the weather in Kansas City to be absolutely unpredictable. So meteorologists definitely have their work cut out here. In fact, one of my clients is a meteorologist at a local news station, And when I was talking to him over the phone about this recent snowstorm, his wife was on the speakerphone behind him, and she said, "Look, he's only right about half the time. This is Kansas City, right?" And that's pretty much right. The forecast is just a general projection. It's very, very hard to predict the weather here. And if you're coming from a coastal area where the weather is more predictable, where it's 70 degrees and sunny all year round, it's going to be a big change for you to adapt to the seasons and the weather here. But you know why a lot of people are moving here leads us to another pro. A lot of people are moving here because of the job growth here in Kansas City. I'm just going to list a couple of things that are coming to Kansas City or are already here in Kansas City, providing a bunch of jobs for the local community. There's the DeSoto Panasonic Power Plant, which is accepting applications for jobs right now. That's going to be built in DeSoto, Kansas, which is on the western edge of Johnson County, and tons of people are relocating to Kansas City to work at that plant right now. The Google data center is in Kansas City's Northland, and that promises to be complete in the upcoming years, and that's going to be a hub for tech jobs too. The Facebook data center, called the Golden Plains Technology Center, is also going to be located in the Northland. Facebook is buying land for that right now. The IRS is wanting to hire 1,000 new employees in 2025. And the IRS building is located right downtown near the Liberty Memorial. In fact, I have 2 clients right now that are working in the IRS right now, looking for a home in the Brookside area. The Buc-ee's, like I mentioned before, is going to open, bringing hundreds of jobs. The Amazon Distribution Center, which I know 2 or 3 people working there right now. There's the Ford manufacturing plant, which I have a client from California who has relocated for a job there and is now looking for a home in Blue Springs. There's Cerner. There's the local hospitals here where my wife used to work as an ER nurse. All of these things are job opportunities which are causing people to move in all the time, which is a huge pro. But with all these people relocating from different areas of the country, leads us to the last con is you might have to get used to some new laws here in Kansas City if you're a local or if you're relocating. I hesitate to call this a con because in the end, I actually think this is a better thing for Kansas City, but there are new laws that are going to affect you, especially if you drive, and you're gonna have to drive in Kansas City. The bus transportation is okay, it's free. And like I said before, the streetcar is being built out. But if you want to live in the metro, you're going to need a car. There's not widely available public transportation, especially to the outer cities in the metro. And you're going to need a car, which leads us to there's a new texting and driving law that's coming into effect in January 1st of 2025. It was actually passed in 2023. And the law basically states, and it's already enforced in other states, a lot of other states, basically you cannot have a phone in your hand if you're driving, which I think is a smart law to have. I just want to go on record for saying that because I drive a lot, probably, up to 30,000 miles plus a year because of my job in real estate. And I see all sorts of drivers that are distracted. And honestly, I've been guilty of it myself. One of the things that I have to get used to is not holding my phone while I navigate, because if I'm going to this unfamiliar area to show a house, then I'm using my navigation to get there. And I really, really have to get used to just putting my phone down or putting it on a mount in order to not get pulled over, because the cop is not going to know if I'm just using it to navigate or if I'm texting or watching YouTube or doing stuff like that. So if you're relocating from an area that doesn't have those laws in place, get used to driving and putting your phone down, because if not, you can get pulled over and you can get a ticket. Like I said before, the law was passed in 2023, and they had a grace period for people to not enforce it for about 16 months. But starting January 1st, 2025, you are going to get a ticket if a cop sees you texting and driving or driving around with your phone in your hand, even if it's for navigation. Now that leads me to my last pro, which is community. There is awesome community in Kansas City. Having lived in the Los Angeles metro, I can say that the community in Kansas City, the friendliness of the people is fantastic. The Midwest hospitality is real. When the summer storm came through, there were 2 large trees that fell down in our neighborhood, blocking about 5 or 6 houses in, especially their driveways. They couldn't get out and couldn't go anywhere. Neighbors from around the block came in to remove these trees so that these 5 neighbors could get out of their driveways and get going about their daily life. Right now, as I'm recording this, there's about 12 inches of snow on the ground, and I've been browsing the Facebook groups, the local Facebook groups, and the Reddit posts and the Reddit forums, and people have been asking for help. And as far as I can see, there are a lot of people who are ready and able to help them shovel their driveway, move their car, dig out their car, get their car unstuck, which is really heartwarming for somebody who lives in Kansas City. There was a viral video during the snow and ice storm that we had this past week of a lady who was skidding down an on-ramp, who basically just kind of hopped out of her car and just said, Jesus, take the wheel, and the car was just sliding down the on-ramp, which is obviously, really dangerous for her to do. But I honestly, if I was in her situation, I don't know what I would have done, because according to her, she was sliding down this on-ramp into oncoming traffic, and so she kind of just dished the car for it to slide off in an embankment, and it didn't hurt anybody. But I read a local news story. Where they interviewed her, and they said a local tow truck company decided to come out and for free towed her car all the way to where it came to rest, all the way to her house. So that's a glimpse of the hospitality and the kindness that people in Kansas City show you when you move here. Now, there is a Bible verse that says, a man who has friends must show himself friendly. So if you're relocating here and all you plan to do is to sit in your basement to play video games and you don't want to meet anybody, well, then I can't promise that your experience in Kansas City will be the same as ours. But for us, we love going out to the parks. We love doing community events. We're heavily involved in our church, and we have found community in Kansas City to be rich and wonderful. Now, like I said before, we live in one of the more dangerous neighborhoods in Kansas City, and what keeps us here? It's because we have hope and optimism that in moving here, we moved here for our local church. We used to live in Gladstone, like I said before, and we lived there for about 2 years before we relocated to Kansas City, Missouri proper, in the Midtown area, to be part of the local church that we planted here. But we have hope and optimism for this neighborhood in the future and the surrounding areas. We're super close to everything, so we like the convenience of living here. Of course, there were some, hairy incidents. In fact, I actually saw a drive-by shooting the day I brought my son home, my third son home from the hospital. So that was definitely not great. But we do see changes. We do see our community kind of rallying together to try to make this community a better place. And we do have a lot of hope and optimism for the future. I don't want to say that Kansas City is dangerous, so you should never move here. However, this video is so that you know both the pros and the cons of moving to Kansas City. Now, if you want some tours of the Kansas City neighborhoods, including neighborhoods that are right near ours, click on this video right here.